Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with Part 8, Lesson 7 of the Illuminated Faith, Mystical Interpretation of the Gospel of St. John by R. Swinburne Clymer. Lesson 7. Where there is no mind, there can be no soul, because there is nothing wherewith to build the soul. St. John chapter 2 verses 1 through 17. 1. And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. 2. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. 3. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, They have no wine. 4. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? My hour is not yet come. Jesus had nothing to do with material wine at a wedding feast where there was giving in marriage. His work was to teach the greater marriage, that of the soul with the Father. 5. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. That which the divine laws teach us, we must do if we desire the fruits that come to man through obedience. Unless we heed the dictates of the higher teachings, we cannot reap the benefits therefrom. Rather, we must reap the punishment that disobedience causes. Whatsoever the voice within saith unto you, do it. 6. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. 7. Jesus saith unto them, Fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim. 8. And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. 9. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom. 10. And he saith unto him, Every man at the beginning doeth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse. But thou hast kept the good wine until now. Water represents the mind and the mental forces. Wine is always a representation of life, or that which is spiritual, or that which belongs to the soul. To obey him means to use the mind and the mental forces, the thoughts and the will, in such a way as to transmute, to draw up the physical and the mental energies so that they become wine. Unless we obey the divine law, unless we do whatsoever the law of love and truth indicates, there can be no good results. The jugs, that is, our body, must be filled. The mind must be whole or complete. Then we must use the mind in such a way as to draw up these forces. When we do this according to the divine law, the waters, are transmuted into wine. In other words, the mental forces have been changed into soul forces. This narrative is a beautiful parable of the spiritual process of transmutation. It refers to the true alchemy or spiritual chemistry, the art of transforming undesirable tendencies of character into Christ-like graces of heart. The bridegroom is he who has accomplished the work. He has wedded. The soul, through its illumination or awakening, has become one with the Father. It is become the Christ, the Son of God. In this work, the mind forces, or the worse wine, are used first in order that the good wine, or the results of transmutation, may be last. In the world of sense, the good things are used first, leaving the worst until men are satisfied and no longer have keen taste or sense. 11. This beginning of miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. The transmutation of evil into good, of the base qualities of character into pure wine seems a miracle to those who do not understand the principles of transmutation. It can be brought about only in Galilee, for Galilee is the place of continuation, the place of continuing the work until it is accomplished. Transmutation or spiritual chemistry is a long continued process. 12. After this he went down to Capernaum, he and his mother and his brethren and his disciples, and they continued there not many days. 13. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. The Passover of the Jews had degenerated into nothing more than a feast, something which was not even representative or symbolic of the true Passover. The true Passover means passing from the evils of life and from the evil ways to the true life and to faithfulness in obeying the divine law. 14. And found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changers of money sitting. Even the temples of the Jews were used for ignoble purposes, and not for the symbolic worship of that other temple not made with hands. The material temples of the earth are in representation of the temples wherein God dwells. A temple is the place of prayer, where man should go to be taught the divine law, where they should be shown how to live accordingly to the divine law, and how, through thus living in harmony with the law, to purify the temple of their own being, so that God may take up his abode therein. All temples are but symbols of the temple of man, the center of which is the Holy of Holies, wherein is the altar, whereon is the fire of the vestals, the fire that should never be allowed to go out, but that should be kept burning continually, so that it is a light which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Not only had the Jews lost the meaning of their Passover, but they no longer had a knowledge of their own divinity. The Father no longer dwelled within them, for they had so far degenerated that they did not even recognize the truth that their temples represented. Instead of being the house of instruction and symbolic of the divine temple wherein God dwells, they become houses of trade, the home of money changers. 15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. 16. And said unto them that sowed doves, Take these things hence, make not my Father's house an house of merchandise. As the temple built by man is a symbol of the temple, not made by hands, so are doves the emblem of truth, of light, and of purity. There are forces in man's nature which are for the building of the immortal soul, but man is prone to use these forces for base and ignoble purposes. The doves are symbolic of these forces and energy in man's being, forces pure in themselves, but admitting of a wrong or perverted, used on man's part, or even of being thrown away or sold, instead of using them for the worship of the one Father who is in the temple. The Jews were making merchandise of them, selling them, or casting them aside. No man can find the Father unless he cleanse his temple, and then sets free the doves, rising the forces, which are pure in themselves, up to the altar, and then presents them as gifts to the Father. Only in this way can the transmutation or Passover take place, so that man may pass from man to God, from carnality to solarity, from degeneracy to Christ-like qualities of character. 17. And his disciples remembered that it was written, The zeal of thine house hath eaten me up. Unless the forces given to us by the Father are used for the purpose for which they were intended, they become as ashes. for the zeal with which they are used for pleasure and even profit will destroy them. And there is nothing left wherewith to light the fire upon the altar, whereby man may obtain immortality of soul and sonship with the Father. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.